telephone crisis impacts the written part of the technical baccalaureate and probatoire examinations in the southwest region of Cameroon. The southwest, or some candidates, had to travel from Tombel and Bangem in Kupe Maningoba division to take part in the examination. In Lom of the Mungo division of the country, the exams began across the national territory. That was today. Also in this newscast, we are going to be revisiting the Awin gas explosion allegation, which left or increased the demand of palm oil in the entire northwest region of Cameroon recently. Local officials have said that the information is fake. We shall be right back. To you, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us in this edition of the Prime Time Newscast on Equinoxe Television. We begin right here with the difficulties of some inhabitants in the Douala 4 subdivision. In Bonaberi, inhabitants of Block 7, Beseke 2, that is a neighborhood in Bonaberi, are now calling on local administrative authorities to come to their aid. The entire neighborhood is now inundated due to poor drainage canals. The population is now living in water, as Manjikan Gabriel tells us in the following report.
He is an inhabitant of Block 7, Biseke 2, Camp de Sapeur in Douala 4 municipality. Just like him, who moves inside water to get out of his house, others are struggling to get out of the residence. This is so because the entire area has been invaded by standing water whose drainage has been blocked.
With the hope so they will fill them, they open the gutter which was existing, and since then up to now nothing has been done. I've written to the outgoing DO who was here, written to the councillor, the council, the mayor, or right to the urban council. Nothing has happened.
The inhabitants throw blames on a road construction company that came to repair their roads but decided not to open up a runway for water, which is now invading their private homes. It has caused untold problems.
2017, I was detained just because of the gutter. Because when I opened a small place that this water could pass for some tenants to stay in our houses that have been existing here since 1986. Now we are not able to live on it.
The fear of cholera outbreak is already running in the heart of the people.
With this water, the latrines which are around are already inundated. Very soon there will be cholera. I don't know whether they know whether very soon, as this flood are going on like this, very soon there will be cholera.
This woman tells us that her husband is sick due to his fight to see how the standing water could get a way out.
My man, therefore, they don't fall sick. When I only do water, I don't carry water, and I don't fall sick.
Some residents have already abandoned their homes because no solution is forthcoming.
It started on social media and later spread like wildfire. After news of the explosion of Lake Awin went viral, hundreds of households in Santa subdivision, Mizam of the northwest region of Cameroon, began consuming palm oil, which was believed to be a preventive move against airborne diseases. The divisional officer for Santa, in an outing recently, called for calm and qualified the information as fake. Simanjikan Gabriel once again tells us more.
Images of several Bamenda inhabitants flooded the social media Saturday, as well as short fun videos, all portraying the inhabitants consuming and rubbing palm oil on their bodies. This was after a rumor that spread saying Lake Awin, found in Santa subdivision, has exploded and emitted poisonous gas. As a preventive means, inhabitants were forced to use palm oil. But it wasn't a good idea after all, as it affected some of those who consumed it.
It affected me. My nose was too much crashing.
It was very horrible. It was very bad too when many people were there putting it on their nose. It was somehow itchy and it was paining.
Informed about the situation, the divisional officer who descended to the scene debunked the rumors.
Early in the morning, I instructed the brigade commander of me. He came before 6 o'clock. He was already around the lake, but he could have not reached the lake because he was because of the darkness. So the brigade commander wing came and with his team, and he was the first person to tell me that nothing happened in the Awing Lake, and also the paramount fund of Awing, because we have a powerful traditional ruler here in this. We are in Awing here, so the fund also came to see if the information are true or not, and he also called me saying that he is now in the lake and nothing happened there. So I can now ensure, I can tell to the population, to all the opinion, that nothing has happened in the Awing.
But when asked if it was possible for Lake Awing to explode, the DO said,
"It is only God who can know, but nothing has ever taken place in this area. As we have been listening to the caretaker of the lake, we have never witnessed even any incident in this.
Experts who accompanied the divisional officer to the site want people to stop circulating wrong informations.
We take you now to Lum of the Mongo Division of Cameroon, which is now hosting probatoire and baccalaureate candidates that could not take part in the examination in Tombel and Bangem of Kupe Maningoba Division of the Southwest region of the country as a result of the tense atmosphere reigning in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. Education officials have said that adequate security measures have been put in place to ensure their safety. In the following report, we tell you that the atmosphere was hitch-free on day one. It takes less than 10 kilometers to travel from Lum in the littoral region to Tombel and Bangem in the southwest region of Cameroon, reason why some parts of the Mongo Division are constantly being affected by the Anglophone crisis. The 2018 session of the Technical Education Examination, the Probatoire and the Baccalaureate in the French subsystem of education is taking place at the time when security is at stake in these localities. Due to frequent attacks, gun battles and calls for school boycotts, major towns in Kupe Maningoba Division have been described as no-go areas for examination candidates. Dozens of them had to travel to Lum to take part in the examinations. Taking pictures of the centers accommodating candidates from Anglophone regions was prohibited for security reasons.
Avec une particularité cette année où certains candidats du Sud-Ouest sont venus composer.
The Littoral Regional Delegate for Secondary Education, Soso Henri Dello, traveled to Lum to assure the students that their safety would be guaranteed throughout the one-week exercise. French was the first subject of the day.
Nous avons saisi le sous-préfet hier soir qui a pris des dispositions pour contrecarrer toute éventualité.
Il est strictement interdit de communiquer ou de regarder sur la copie de son voisin.
The chief of center at the Government Technical High School Lum, where the students of the area were writing the examinations, said that all the expected 138 candidates for baccalaureate were present, while only one candidate of Série F3 who registered for technical probatoire was absent.
Au probatoire, on nous a signalé un absent dans la série F3.
Some of the candidates testified that the first subject was within reach.
C'était abordable. Vous pouvez le français.
And several parts of the two Anglophone regions of the country have continued respecting the Operation Ghost Town as the crisis deepens in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. In the following report, we are going to be showing you the ghost town picture of the city of Limbe. Davison Maimo has that story.
Even after the event at the Manga Williams Avenue, the fanfare and euphoria that used to characterize the day, with drinking spot crowded as celebration continues, was indeed absent. Business places were all shut down, with movement very timid. Talking to some commercial motorbike riders, they say it was the worst National Day celebrations in terms of business.
Morning time, see how we play them drive. Nothing, no day. Compared to the last year on. No movement, no nothing, really welcome. So, I'll show you now.
It is clear that the ongoing Anglophone crisis is a catalyst behind the partial ghost town, as fear was what was in the minds of the city dwellers following news of attacks in Ekona and Moyoka.
The treatment for now is a bit different because of the crisis within the country, so we manage for the work. The work not to be effective, but by God's grace we will work small.
Nevertheless, business only gains steam in the evening, but not as it ought to be.
And the National Unity Day celebration, we come back to activities marking the 20th of May celebrations across national territory. We see how it took place in Limbe. It was a ghost town, of course. As Davison Maimo indicated in the report that just ended, the turnout was timid at the ceremonial ground in Limbe. For the first time, mission, primary and secondary schools did not take part in the parade. Other private schools were simply absent from the ceremonial ground as well. It should be noted that security was reinforced in and around the ceremonial ground. And the senior divisional officer for Manu Division of the Southwest Region expressed worries over the growing number of fleeing Anglophone Cameroonians within his area of command. He called on Anglophone activists to drop their arms, as Derek Jato tells us in this report.
Manu Division stand tall as the first division in the Southwest region that was seriously hit by violence, death, and many displaced persons when the Anglophone crisis witnessed a different twist. Celebrating the 46th edition of the National Day in Manfi, chief town of Manu Division, Mr. De Joseph, the senior divisional officer for the said division, called on the Manu people to put down their arms and give peace a chance. With thousands in the bushes and thousands more still in Nigeria as refugees, for the fear of the unknown in a place they call homeland, the Manu senior divisional officer used the 20th May celebration platform and called on the Manu people to come back and live together. Some Manu sons and daughters who came out at the Manfi ceremonial grandstand said it took them extra courage and strong determination to brave the threat. Security, however, was at the peak to an extent that the military forces, while participating in the ceremony, were also at the same time combat ready.
Same a young John Ashu, in the name of the President of the Republic, and by virtue of the power conferred on us, I have the honor to decorate you with the Medal of Officer of the Cameroon Order of Merit.
And hard work was appreciated by the award of medals.
And in the far north region of Cameroon, the May 20th celebration was like a new dawn to students and pupils. It should be noted that the far north region of the country has been hit by Boko Haram atrocities. In the past months, Boko Haram terrorists had barred them from going to school and equally taking part in such events for a long time. Babla Jonathan paints the picture of the May 20th celebration 2018 in the following report.
After several dead academic years in many parts of the far north region of Cameroon because of terrorist attacks, these pupils and students came out in their numbers to celebrate National Unity Day, an event they have not taken part in since suspected Boko Haram militants began increasing the rate of attacks on the region's schools, markets and other areas of population concentration. Some came from Makiri in the Logun and Sharu division and others from Sulederoa in the Mati Chanaka division under the protection of Cameroonian security and defense forces, while vigilante groups were on alert checking against any possible incursion of terrorists. the peoples sang national unity, and national unity again and again. And they are happy to take part in a national event again.
Je suis fier de venir aujourd'hui.
The vigilante committees made a demonstration of force. In Soulé-des-Rois, the division officer Abdoulaye Moussa Ousmane urged young people to be patriotic, hardworking and disciplined.
Être discipliné et laborieux.
Even after the parade, the feast continued with elements of the National Armed Forces and teachers leading pupils in dancing to the rhythm of local songs.
It is still at the center of debates and controversies, the brand new Range Rover of the President of the Republic, which was perceived by Cameroonians for the first time at the May 20 Boulevard in the nation's capital. That was on the National Unity Day. The new car is not the problem. The price is what took critics of the Biya regime aback. Innocent Aze tells us more in this report.
Cameroonians have not stopped reacting differently on social media on President Paul Biya's acquisition of a new vehicle, a Range Rover presented for the first time in September 2015 with cost price of 400,000 euros, equivalent to 260 million francs CFA. 3 years after, the price skyrocketed between 400 and 600 million francs CFA. Arrival of the head of state in the top-class Range Rover sparked a series of reactions on social media, most of them negative. Cameroonians hold that the head of state drives in a paradise jeep while his collaborators ride in death traps. Others view the head of state as extravagant. The Popoli newspaper talks of the arrival of a giant war machine to keep the president secured anywhere he goes. Other caricatures take mockery forms as compatriots of the presidents of the republic do not stop dreaming to one day be in possession of such a Range Rover. Reactions are not only negative. There are some Cameroonians who hold that the head of state needs this type of vehicle in order not to be embarrassed like when his former limousine vehicle paralyzed at the May 20 Boulevard in Yaoundé. Others believe it was time for Paul Biya to change his limousine, a recommendation which he initially rejected but has now welcomed. To some others, this giant Range Rover is not Paul Biya's personal belonging but property of future leaders of Cameroon. Such a Land Rover is constructed to resist attacks, bullets, explosives and the rest. Most Cameroonians, however, fume at this move to afford such an expensive brand of vehicle for an individual, while thousands of Cameroonians are suffering.
Innocent Aze, they're ending this first part of the news. Up next is Talking Points. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Tonight we have as guest a political analyst, Mr. Ako John. Ako, good evening to you. Thank you so much once again for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine being with you this evening.
The pleasure is ours as well. We are going to begin right away with the baccalaureate examinations in the French subsystem of education that began across the national territory. The focus of our newsroom today was the situation in Lum, Mongo Division, where we've seen students leaving Tombel and Bangam because of the chaotic atmosphere to right in Lum of the Mongo Division. We've seen local authorities promising them adequate security, but many are worried about the situation of the GC examinations that will be taking place in few weeks from now. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Akojon?
I believe very well that the crisis have come to a time when the state authorities are equally recognizing that there is an impact the crisis is creating among Cameroonians and within the regions concerned. Some time ago, we equally talked about the 20th May celebration, how it was going to be a problem, but you will still remember that the government we have, like that of Cameroon, still insisted that 20th May celebration will go as planned, and they succeeded, and a lot of those pictures in Manfe, in Lum itself, in La BLM, and even in a Kondo Titi, which the government has consistently been refusing that the situation is under control, now deciding that the children who have been preparing the exams under a normal environment, there is something we call social ties and social environment under which a child has trained or has been studying to continue writing an exam, and on the eve of the exam, we need to send this child from his base or her base to another region to write. It has an impact to play on the psychological tendency in the outcome. So if we have to recognize that there is an insecurity situation, this insecurity situation has not been created by Southern Cameroonians, as I have insisted that the state has just used this as a situation to equally squander state-earned money, and why not put the burden and the blame on Southern Cameroonians and whatsoever they call secessionists. Because whatever the case, this government has an option to bring tension within the area. It will equally tell us that there is a need for peace to reign within the area, and that the government has the decision. If we can take the decision this evening to displace an examination center from Tombel to Lum, meaning we can take a decision this evening to equally end the atrocities committed by the men in uniform within the same area.
Many people are worried about the fate of the GC examinations, an indication that it might possibly be a similar scenario. It would be taking place in few weeks from now.
Yeah, if we are talking of the baccalaureate, which just within the southwest and in fact the anglophone regions, you realize that the baccalaureate exams is just a little of an iceberg of what is going to happen with the exams. What of the GCE? And in places like Manfe, where will you displace those who are around Dadi village, those who are in Imoja, those who are in Kembong, those who are in Kwakwa, and many of the areas, what those in Munyenge, where are we going to take them to? If on the eve of the same exam baccalaureate, we had the means to send them to Lum, what becomes of the majority of more than maybe 17,000 candidates who are waiting to sit in for these exams? What becomes of them? It will equally mean that maybe the decision is taken because the baccalaureate is of a French origin, and that the GCE examination it is of an Anglo-Saxon origin. If they don't write that, it's their concern. So one system of education will also live to be promoted rather than the other. In fact, in Cameroon, you realize that in the past there was an intention to wipe out a particular system within the educational calendar of Cameroon and replace it with another system, which is not. And one of those things Anglophone Cameroonians are saying enough is enough is the way in which the state authorities manipulate with the English system of education.
And the crisis, like you said, there's need for solutions. The international community has been reacting precisely. The United States of America that has met simply a series of outings as far as the situation is concerned. The most recent is that of the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon that admitted that government forces are actually committing atrocities in the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. How do you really interpret this opinion of the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, which is somewhat or somehow different from the views of the French or France that has pledged its support in resolving the current socio-political crisis?
The first thing I want us to understand here that this is an international, these are international opinions, and we continue to look at the international opinion most often in crisis situation to try to pace down or create a way forward. The U.S. ambassador is not making something new. The United States Embassy in Yaoundé, the British High Commissioner in Yaoundé, and many others, international organizations in Cameroon, knows very well that there is excessive force used by the military in many of the Anglophone regions. And as I said some time ago, the death of Felix Lumiere, a lot of those Omnobe that were killed with the assistance from the same Western nation. Yes, La Francophonie, which is a French-headed organization, some time ago equally condemned. But I believe we have to pass away from this speeches atmosphere to a center of reality, that there is a need for the United States. There is a need for the United States to give instructions, direct message to the Cameroonian government that this is a genocide in gestation, and that if we continue looking at it, we don't need to count genocide on the number of people killed, but we have to look at the intention of the government, that there is within the act of the government to eliminate another part, and that this part in the next future will be dominated by another group of people whom they think that this country belongs to the Francophones and that the Anglophones have no right.
And the intention of the government is another preoccupation, because the U.S. ambassador actually stated that until both sides agree, a third party or somebody from the international community cannot intervene. The President of the Republic, according to the U.S. ambassador, has that power to use his leadership and bring an end to the crisis.
But that is what we are saying here, is that the government knows what to do and they know what they can do. As I just said with the loan crisis, the government knows what they can do for this crisis to end. And we have just said here, sometime I insisted, that release all those who are captured because of this crisis and get into sincere dialogue. Not a dialogue where you have ambush political monsters ready to take appointments and options. You see today that those who refuse that there was no Anglophone crisis, those who invited the military to torture students at the university campuses, are those that have been appraised, applauded, and appointed into new offices. And many of these kind still exist. Some have been appointed as senators and many others. Some within the military are using it already as a marketing ground to siphon funds and commit other atrocities in the field. The U.S. Embassy in Yaoundé is not just making it known. The Cameroonian government is aware of what is going on. But then the option is eliminate anybody within the area that presents any idea of self-determination. Sometimes I said, within the United Nations Charter, the right to self-determination is a basic right of every citizen. And I will tell you that the words of the U.S. ambassador is equally fluid, empty, in the sense that there is no action related to it. There are basic speeches. Guterres of the United Nations made the same statement, and even many others. But I will tell you that some time ago, the then U.S. president ended the fighting in Haiti by picking up the president Jean-Bertrand Aristide and lodging him in South Africa. And the second president was ending the war in Liberia and the fighting in Sierra Leone. That George Bush equally went to Monrovia.
So there is need for action.
There is lack of action and unwillingness to act, because presently within the Anglophone area, in fact the United States economically, diplomatically doesn't think there is a more better interest than the other side of the territory where they are already being protected by Yaoundé. If the authority in Yaoundé had not given in or given the chance to the US and many other, in fact the French added, because they have an intention, the manipulations that have existed in Cameroon since independence up to today were manipulated in the presence of the French. And so if we seek a solution from the French, such a solution will never be
possible. Now, Mr. Akwojon, you have cited a good number of possible solutions, like releasing those that are behind bars and demilitarizing the Anglophone regions of the country, amongst many others. But politicians will tell you that the solution lies in the ballot box, like unseating the current regime and getting another leader. That is why the U.S. ambassador equally talked on the need for the President of the Republic to start thinking about his legacy and emulate the other iconic presidents like George Washington and Nelson Mandela of South Africa. Do you think that the head of state could this time, because it's of course not the first time, hit to such a pressure?
Yeah, the president will tell you sometime, I believe when on a visit in France, he was asked if he was going to stand again. He said the wish to stand is not his wish, and that the wish to stand and be represented is the wish of the Cameroonian people. And secondly, when you look at it, Cameroon has been that country where already CPDM militants are already writing motion of support and asking the same president to stand again. And you still, in one of his statements, where we have a recalcitrant and a president that care not about his people, sometimes told us that it is not who wish but who can. And so we are here with the president who has a wish. And I'm telling you that within the ranks of the CPDM, they have declared, like the highest opinion, the communication secretary of that party, that the head of state is a natural candidate. If we have to depend on the history that has passed, I don't see a possibility that the president and the powers in Yaoundé will be preparing somebody when they already know that the candidate they have is a natural candidate, meaning after him there will be no leadership. And so we don't even expect to find any new leadership at the level of the party or who is going to succeed him. That has never been. Those that we saw in the past that were going to succeed him and equally even have an iBird view of getting into the presidency, they have been branded what we call the grand honks, and all of them now litter the corridors of Kondengi as embezzlers and all what not. You know better than I do that people, like I may not call their names, presented themselves officially as potential way forward after the Bias regime. We are going to see if possible that is the case, but a lot of things have been happening too, which gives us an impression that the crimes, remember, this is the highest fear in Africa, because when we say in power, Machiavelli said that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Staying in the same home for 36 years, the president knows he cannot go scot-free, and that coming out of power, it will mean Cameroonians would obviously think of dragging him to court. It is preferable to die on the seat than coming out and suffering.
Before we go, Mr. Akko John, the luxurious car of the head of state, which is at the center of the debate, many people are talking about it, and we saw the report of Innocent as was taking a look at reactions on social media. In a country in crisis like Cameroon, many say that it is not necessary for the head of state to spend hundreds of millions to acquire such a car. Do you share a similar view?
This is somebody who said he was going to cut down the cost of living for Cameroonians and that the cost of public expenditure. But at the same time, we see him doing taking a contrary position. What tells us of the president in power is that in reality, he is not in charge. He is not controlling the activities of the regime. People make proposals to him, and once such proposals are made, he basically validates. I have the strongest opinion that the head of state does not know where we are, because some weeks or 2 weeks ago, you people passed a documentary here on some primary schools where there is just one school teacher, and at the same time you see the president presenting to us in an official ceremony what we call National Day. Only they themselves know what is the National Day to Cameroon, presenting such a car to the general public when some Cameroonians are
some people would say the car belongs to Cameroonians in general.
We are not refusing. In Armenia, I will tell you, the new prime minister just decided to sell out about 8 cars from the former president to raise money for the state, because the new prime minister believes he has made a poor government. When we see in a country like ours, when people cannot eat for themselves, basic health facilities, people are still dying of malaria in Cameroon. Women are still dying in hospitals due to difficulties or giving birth. But then, I believe we are not refusing that the head of state does not have a right to a car, but then the luxurious nature of this car is what is going to cost enormously for the Cameroonian taxpayers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akko John, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again. Thank you.
I'm always available for you anytime need be.
Thank you so much. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.